time for the roundtable, and there's a lot to unpack this morning. Of course, every morning there's always a lot to unpack, right? So joining us this morning are Democratic political analyst Marianne Marsh, Republican political analyst Lizzie Guyton. Guys, great to see you. A. B, you heard Lydia Edwards sitting in the chair this morning talking about Beacon Hill and Beacon Hill dysfunction. Let's get your take right off the top about why a Democratic supermajority can't get legislation passed. What's up?
I think Lydia had the right point, which is to focus on the things that got done. And the biggest thing that got done was the housing bond bill, which really matters, especially to Maura Healey, but it matters to everyone across the state. That's the thing that matters. And I'm not saying everyone shouldn't have gotten their work done, but there's still time to do it in informal session. There's an election coming. You have till the end of the year. So let's see where we end up.
Lizzie, what do you think?
There's lots of dysfunction on Beacon Hill. This is traditional for this time of year. It doesn't make it right, but there are still some really urgent matters facing the Commonwealth. There's healthcare reform, there's maternal health care, there's inflation that is causing problems for everyone. Economic development to knock it down, that was a key priority for the governor. And it just indicates that the legislature is out of touch with voters and what they need to get done.
Lizzie, you worked for Governor Baker, and so you've been behind the scenes of these kinds of negotiations. Do you think, how much of this does Governor Healey own? Could she have done more? She was up on Beacon Hill during these negotiations.
Yeah, look, this is the end of her first legislative session, and what comes out of that session in part will inform her reelection campaign and what she runs on to prove that she can get the job done for the Commonwealth. The governor can and should play a role in the legislative process and what gets done. I think it seems that her strategy has been to kind of sit back and not take the blame for what happens.
Yeah, what do you think, Marianne?
She got her number one item, the housing bond bill, period, full stop. And I think she's playing a longer game here. She was in there negotiating. She was seen by everybody before the end of the session, during the late night hours that everybody was covering and things like that. So I think, let's see where we end up in the fall at the end of the year. But I think she's played it just right, because complaining about it doesn't get you anywhere, and focusing on the sausage making doesn't get you anywhere. Right. But what you get in the end does matter.
Item 2 was this Sunday, we're at another critical moment in the presidential race. DNC delegates in the process of making Kamala Harris the official Democratic nominee for president. That should be locked up tomorrow, right? Her VP choice could be announced at any moment. We are still dealing with the aftermath of the comments made by Donald Trump last week at a convention of black journalists. Trump returning to identity politics. Harris taking the high road, saying that America deserves better. The dynamics of the race dramatically changing. Lizzie, where is this going?
Trump, Vance, their reprehensible rhetoric this past week really is a gift to Kamala Harris and their campaign, because talking about identity politics, that's not going to help them with the undecided voters. It's not going to help them with voters in the middle. It might shore up the base, but it's sending the wrong message to people that they're going to need to convince to vote for them. Focus on the issues. Focus on her record, tying it to the Biden administration's failed record, tying it to the border, which she's responsible for, and where she's fallen short for the American people.
She was the border czar. Right. Yeah.
Actually, that's factually incorrect.
She was?
She was responsible for going to Central America, working out a treaty agreements so people would stop coming to the border, and there's been more than a 50% drop. That was never her title. Okay,
and your response to where are we going right now? I mean, where's this whole thing headed?
So Donald Trump has hit his ceiling. He has no votes left to get, which is why he's throwing down the racism, sexism card, because he has to jack up the MAGA supporters. There are no more votes for him to get. So it's going to be a combination of race, misogyny, sexism, the playbook from 2016 and 2020. And at the same time, he's going to have to depress Democratic votes for Harris by challenging voter registration, challenging people at voter sites, and refusing to certify the election. That's the playbook.
All right. Well, so let's talk about the Veep. We'll know shortly what is likely to be the deciding factor. What do you think?
Well, the question remains, how much does the vice president really matter in the long run? I think the short list that we're hearing about right now, these are candidates that make up for Harris's weaknesses, for her progressive policies.
Is that what she should want? Is that what she should be looking for?
The goal is to pick someone that helps you win. That's it, right? And at this point, especially with this unprecedented situation, those are the cards that have been dealt. But it's unclear if the VP pick really matters in the long run. And I think that her campaign should be putting equal, if not more, emphasis on actually shoring her up on the issues where she's weak, because that's what the American people are going to want to hear about.
Lizzie and Marianne, to that very point, Trump said this week the VP choice doesn't really make a difference. Does it make a difference?
Well, it has for him, because he's tanked ever since J.D. Vance got on the stage at the Republican convention and Kamala Harris got into the race. But when you look at the pick, for the Democratic side, it's going to be Josh Shapiro. And it will be for the first time since 1960, when Jack Kennedy picked Lyndon Johnson to deliver Texas. Josh Shapiro will deliver Pennsylvania, which is 19 electoral votes. He can do that, and that is probably the difference between winning and losing.
I want to talk about the cat ladies comment from J.D. Vance. It's everywhere, and it doesn't seem to be going away. Do you think there's a possibility that Trump might dump him?
Well, Trump is known for his loyalty, isn't he?
Yeah, okay.
So it could happen any day now or not. It doesn't matter. This is about Donald Trump. But J.D. Vance has cost Donald Trump.
Is there a possibility, though? I mean, is that even possible at this point?
Anything's possible with Donald Trump, as we've known for the last 9 or 10 years.
What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah, anything's possible, especially this election cycle. Look, the number one job of the VP is not to make mistakes, not to mess up. He's not really helping out at the moment, but, Donald Trump is unpredictable. That's how he's been. Again, with the rhetoric, though, I mean, this is a misstep on their part. When it comes to the issues, inflation, the economy, foreign affairs, they have those issues on their side at this point. Talk about the issues. Normal people want to hear about that. How do we get back to normalcy? Not why are we insulting people and doing more identity
We're
politics.
not getting back to normal.
But there was a point in time when Trump was quiet, was focused, and it seemed to be moving forward, but that's long gone. That's more than a month or two
It was
away.
short-lived.
brief enough,
It was
I suppose.
brief and
Yeah.
not
a
whatever.
brief shining moment.
We continue with the roundtable. Stay with us.